everyone. My name is Matt, and I'm very pleased to announce our next presenters. I'm Vrishank, and they are presenting their title is Metformin, Dimethylbiguanide, Antidiabetic Inhibition, Pyruvate, Carboxylase, and the Gluconeogenesis pathway.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for listening to our presentation today. As you know, my name is Manasa, this is our research partner.
Hi, my name is Simon Kumar.
And today we're going to be sharing with you our research on the antidiabetic drug known as Metformin, specifically looking at its interaction with the enzyme Pyruvate in the gluconeogenesis pathway.
So, raise your hand if a family member, your friend, or anybody has had type 2 diabetes or diabetes in general. So quite a significant number of you. But many of you might not know the huge significance of this problem and the exponentially growing problem of type 2 diabetes. So, just recently, just a week ago, the California State Legislature put money behind the prevention campaign to prevent type 2 diabetes. Now, if you look deeper in the article, you see some shocking statistics. So, you see that 9% of Californians have type 2 diabetes. You see 46% of Californians have prediabetes, which is the precursor to diabetes. And then you see that 70% of pre-diabetic patients will develop diabetes in their lifetime. Now that's a shocking statistic, 46%. That's half of the voting population, and it's a major influencer in society. So to fight this and combat this problem, we have to understand what type 2 diabetes is. So diabetes in general is defined by hypoglycemia, which is the amount of excess glucose, which is a sugar in your body that powers cells and gives you energy. And there's a high amount of that in your body. And you can define it into two types of diabetes. There's type 1 diabetes and there's type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is defined by low insulin levels, and insulin is the counterhormone to glucose. And type 2 diabetes is what we're focused on. 90% of diabetic patients have type 2 diabetes, and that's defined by high excess amounts of sugar and high amounts of insulin. However, insulin is not able to bind to receptors that pull glucose out of the bloodstream and storing it, reducing the amount of glucose in the bloodstream. So this is just the average patient. So as you see, insulin. So the insulin will bind to the receptor, and glucose will come into the bloodstream, not into the cell, from the bloodstream. Now this is just a regular patient. This happens in your body all the time, and it's just a regular process. It's pulling glucose out of the bloodstream into the cell. Now what's really interesting is a type 2 diabetes patient. The insulin will bind to the receptor, however, nothing else will happen. Glucose will not come into the bloodstream. Now this can be for many various problems, however, the insulin, however, it still leads to glucose not coming into the cell. Now this can lead to many problems, such as frequent urination, core healing sores, frequent urination, weight loss, and other problems.
Now, let's talk about our drug of choice, Metformin. This is what we're going to be focusing on in our presentation. So, Metformin is currently the most commonly prescribed drug for the treatment of type 2 diabetes. Worldwide, 150 million people are dependent on this drug as of 2014. And the way that Metformin works in the body of a type 2 diabetic patient is to lower high blood glucose, lower that hyperglycemia that I mentioned. And this is done in two ways. One, by increasing insulin sensitivity, and the second way, which we're going to be focusing on, is by inhibiting a pathway known as gluconeogenesis. We'll talk about that in just a bit. So there is a lot of debate as to how Metformin exactly inhibits gluconeogenesis. The leading theory is that Metformin activates a master regulatory enzyme in your body known as AMPK, which will then turn off gluconeogenic gene expression. Another proposed pathway is that Metformin will inhibit a particular enzyme known as pyruvate carboxylase in the gluconeogenesis pathway, and then this in turn will inhibit gluconeogenesis. So now let's take a look at gluconeogenesis at large. Gluconeogenesis is a pathway by which glucose is created in your body. And you can see here some of the initial steps of gluconeogenesis. That first step is very important because after the first step, this pathway is non-reversible. It will occur. when pyruvate carboxylase, that enzyme, catalyzes the conversion of either pyruvate or lactate into oxaloacetate. Later on, oxaloacetate will be converted into methylene phthalate, and this is done by the enzyme phthalate dehydrogenase. Now pay attention to those steps over there. As this reaction is running, a coenzyme known as NADH will be converted into NAD+. So we can quantify this rate of conversion and quantify the concentration of NADH in the reaction and relate that back to the overall rate of the gluconeogenesis reaction. So here you can just see an expanded version of what I was talking about before, and you might notice that gluconeogenesis has two main locations in the cell, in the mitochondria, which is circled by that box, and in the cytosol. You'll notice that that step going from oxaloacetate to malate is very important in switching those two locations. Now, in normal physiology, gluconeogenesis is only turned on when we're starving or when we're stressed. But for some reason, in type 2 diabetes patients, this pathway is overexpressed, is overactivated. So even under feeding conditions, your body is still producing glucose. So in type 2 diabetes, there's insulin resistance, means that glucose in the blood from the food you eat can't be taken in by the cells. And also, this pathway, which creates glucose, is inappropriately upregulated, meaning that there's just a very high concentration of glucose in the blood that can be fatal as left untreated.
Now, this is our enzyme of interest, pyruvate carboxylase. So, as we mentioned before, pyruvate carboxylase catalyzes the first step between pyruvate to oxaloacetate. And now, that's a non-reversible step. And now, many studies have shown that that is a major controller of gluconeogenesis that occurs in the mitochondria. So, if you shut pyruvate carboxylase down, you're basically shutting down mitochondrial gluconeogenesis. Now, highlighted in that red box is a molecule called biotin. And biotin is a real important molecule for later on in the experiment. But biotin is basically, it's called a prosthetic group. And a prosthetic group is a molecule that activates the enzyme to assist it in the catalyzation between through pyruvate to oxaloacetate. So keep that in the back of your head because later on in experimentation that's important for what we found. So we were hypothesizing and researching something relating to metformin and pyruvate carboxylase. And we found that we were looking into if metformin inhibited pyruvate carboxylase. Like we mentioned before, there are many theories circulating on how metformin inhibits gluconeogenesis. Now, we're hypothesizing that it does this under pharmacokinetic concentrations of metformin, which is between 250 micromolar to 500 micromolar. Now, those concentrations are within pharmacokinetic concentrations. Most patients take those, and we're hypothesizing that pyruvate carboxylase will be inhibited by metformin. So we're thinking that if metformin is going to interact with pyruvate carboxylase, you'll see an interaction that will inhibit pyruvate carboxylase, inhibit oxaloacetate, inhibit malate, which will then later down the line inhibit glucose production, which will, at the end of the day, inhibit gluconeogenesis.
So let's talk a little bit about the methods we used to complete this experiment. The first thing we did is use a diet-array spectrophotometer to observe the reaction rate of our simulated gluconeogenesis. And we measured at a wavelength of 340 nanometers because, if you remember, that coenzyme NADH is absorbed light at that wavelength. So if we can quantify the absorbance of NADH, we can understand the larger rate of the reaction, and then we can use this equation displayed here, known as Shear's law, to find the concentration of NADH in the reaction at various time intervals. And on this next slide, you can see a basic diagram of how a diet-array works. Basically, we shine a light through the sample, and that data is then fed back to the machine, and you can learn all sorts of interesting things about the reaction rate, reaction kinetics, concentration, and such.
So we also did a CNMR, a carbon nuclear magnetic resonance imaging. So basically what we did, we're assessing the physical interaction between metformin and three molecules of interest. Pyruvate, which is the input of gluconeogenesis, oxaloacetate, the first step of what pyruvate carboxylase convert pyruvate into, and biotin, which is that prosthetic group I talked about earlier, the only way pyruvate carboxylase can actually be turned on. So when we set the physical interaction, we're hypothesizing that if we see a physical interaction between these three molecules of interest and then metformin, perhaps that can occur in the body. We used solvents of D2O, which is basically just water, and if that can occur in here, could it possibly occur in the body? So So we also ran statistical analysis. We ran an ANOVA from the NADH concentrations that we found from Beer's law, and we put it into stats 9.4. Again, running an ANOVA, which is basically finding if there was significant difference in our data set. And if we found a significant difference, that was run through a Duncan-Wallach post-hoc test, and that Duncan-Wallach post-hoc test would show us where that significance was in our data set. So after experimentation, we got some interesting results, and we found that, so these are just two graphs from the diagram, 2 out of the 3 that were showing significant differences in, between the control and the treated solutions. So, okay, so just look up here. That blue line, yeah, you see that is a treated solution of Metformin. That orange line you see, that is a control group. And basically, a greater incline means that the reaction is being slowed down. A greater decline means that the reaction is being sped up. So if you see the control group is at a greater decline, meaning that the reaction is sped up, as there's nothing inhibiting that gluconeogenesis that was going on in that reaction. There's no Metformin, it was just the control group. However, these two slopes, you can see the blue slopes, they are going up at an incline, meaning that there is inhibition of gluconeogenesis. Now, what's really interesting is that we found a significant difference in 5,000 micromolar compared to the control. Now, this wasn't a significant difference that we expected, but the treated solution was actually at a greater decline than the control, meaning that the reaction was actually being sped up. Now, this could be for a variety of different reasons. It could be error, just in general, or it could be because 5,000 micromolar is outside pharmacokinetic concentrations of Metformin. Now, that means that if this is really prescribed, so that means that this is basically a toxic substance at this point. So if it's not error, it could possibly mean that the 5,000 micromolar solution is skewing our data.
So we used data which quantify the conversion of NADH to NAD+, to again understand the rate of the reaction. And essentially, the more moles of NADH you have when converted to NAD+, the faster that reaction is going. And we found that the control had a faster reaction rate as compared to a 1,000 micromolar concentration, as well as compared to the 2,500. However, as I just mentioned, very interestingly, the data suggests that the 5,000 micromolar treated group had a faster reaction rate than the control. And as I mentioned, this could be due to low sample size, maybe a procedural error, or maybe because 5,000 is concerning the super pharmacokinetic concentration, which you never find that in the body, and so it might be your data, but at any rate, it really does merit further investigation.
So later on, we found we ran statistical analysis. So we basically found that we got a degree of freedom of 5. Our p-value was less than our alpha value, and our alpha value was 0.05. We had a confidence interval of 95%, meaning that there was a significant difference in our data set. So we rejected the null, meaning that that there is a significant difference in our data set, meaning that there was a significant inhibition of gluconeogenesis, possibly through pyruvate carboxylase.
Then, knowing that there is a significant difference, we ran a Duncan-Wallach post-hoc test to determine where that significance was between these groups. And we found treated the outlined in blue for our control group, and outlined in red are the treated solutions which vary significantly from the control group, and that's why we chose to focus on those data.
Now, what's really interesting is our NMRs. So we ran an NMR on pyruvate, oxaloacetate, and biotin, just a basic NMR, and we didn't see an interaction between oxaloacetate and Metformin, and pyruvate and Metformin. But what was really interesting is we found an interaction between biotin, that prosthetic group of pyruvate carboxylase, and Metformin. So this is the NMR for for biotin. And basically around 165 to 170, you'll see something called a carbonyl group. And that carbonyl group is important to biotin because that is how it binds to pyruvate carboxylase to activate it and interact with it. So if that carbonyl group disappears in a mixed solution with Metformin, that means there's an interaction going on between the two molecules. So look, if we know that this is just a basic NMR of Metformin, we compared those two NMRs to the NMR of the combined solution. So up here you can see that this is a combined NMR. If you notice, the computer program did not detect a peak at 165, at 65. So you notice that there is an interaction occurring between metformin and biotin. Possibly a reaction, but there's definitely an interaction going on between the two molecules. So we're proposing something called a transamination reaction, which is basically when the nitrogen from the metformin will attack the carbon on the biotin. Now, that means that it will basically render that carbonyl group useless, so it will no longer bind to pyruvate carboxylase. Now, this is our hypothesis product. You have biotin, which is no longer biotin anymore. The carbonyl group has disappeared. It can no longer bind to pyruvate carboxylase. And now you have a molecule that's, and then on top of that, you have a molecule that's not even biotin anymore. It's a biotin and metformin combination, which can mean that it's not, it can't bind to pyruvate carboxylase anymore as it's not biotin anymore. So after this, there are many directions and implications for where the experimentation could go. So we did find inhibition of pyruvate carboxylase and the gluconeogenesis pathway through metformin. And basically, we could run more battery array trials. If we tested higher pharmacokinetic concentrations, tested super high pharmacokinetic concentrations above 5,000, would we get the same results as what we got from the 5,000, or would we get different results? We could also test lower concentrations. The concentrations of metformin that are found in your hepatic portal vein in your liver are basically around 40 to 70 micromolar. So if we tested those concentrations, would we get significant? Also, we could do in vitro studies. Imagine if you could see metformin going inside a cell, a liver cell, and inside the mitochondria, and seeing if we could find if there was inhibition of pyruvate carboxylase. Would we find different results, or would we find the same results? So we just don't know until we don't try. We could also investigate other proposed pathways. So we investigated specifically pyruvate carboxylase. However, if we investigated other pathways through a similar method, would we get supporting results that supported those pathways other than ours, or would we get results that still supported ours theorization? So we could also investigate other uses for metformin. So metformin has been prescribed to PCOS patients to increase ovulation. It has also been prescribed. However, it's also a new field is cancer, and we could figure out how it works in cancer, as it's not completely known how it does that. So metformin could possibly be a cancer treatment, possibly for future patients, as it's not known how it inhibits and suppresses cancer. But if we research it further, we could figure out how. So we could also compare metformin to other biguanides. Biguanide is basically the family which metformin is under. We could find out if we can synthesize better biguanides that improve patient outcomes and overall improve the lives of patients.
Okay, so we've told you a little bit about what we wanted to see and what we found. So what we haven't talked about yet is why you should care, right? Why is this important? As many of you may already know, type 2 diabetes is found in disproportionately high rates among these three demographic groups: African Americans, Latino Hispanics, and Native Americans. What many of you may also know is that it's these same three groups that face the lowest FDS, or socioeconomic status, in the United States. So type 2 diabetes is a disease that can affect anyone of any age, of any race, but disproportionately affects those in lower socioeconomic groups, given that it is a disease that can be caused by and worsened by socioeconomic factors like food insecurity, when you can't afford or have access to healthy foods, such that your diet consists of too much sugar, which can lead to prediabetes or precursor to diabetes. So that's important to keep in mind. Another interesting thing about metformin is this side effect known as lactic acidosis. So I'm sure everyone in the room has worked out at some point. And you know that if you work out, your muscles get sore. And part of the reason for that is because of the buildup of lactate in your muscles. Now let's take a look at that pathway once more. Maybe. If we're suggesting that metformin inhibits pyruvate carboxylase, you're going to have a buildup of lactate in the body. So imagine that soreness I just talked about multiplied tenfold, such that you can't live your life, you can't work. And if type 2 diabetes is a disease which disproportionately affects people in lower socioeconomic statuses, working people, how are they supposed to make their lives when they're already supposed to afford this drug to save their lives? So it's important to understand how metformin works, so we can better understand side effects like lactic acidosis and develop better treatment, better options, have a better understanding of how we can mitigate these side effects and how we can improve patient health and disease.
So we would like to thank a lot of people for making this project possible. We'd like to thank Matt, who is our advisor, who helped us during the project, and our mentor, Andrea, who helped us develop the project and help us do our experimentation. We'd also like to thank the UNC Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry for making this possible, and our sponsors, Excel Energy and Union Pacific.
Thank you so much. Any questions?
So how do you think it would be possible to modify metformin to make it even more?
To modify metformin to make, well, first of all, I guess we need to know exactly how it works. Because even though we did find pyruvate carboxylase inhibition, it's not definitive because there are a lot of different theories, like that I was mentioning. One is that metformin can somehow activate this master regulatory enzyme, which will just turn off gene expression for gluconeogenesis. So a lot of these products, like these proteins, won't even be transcribed, right? So if that's how metformin works, then we would have to attack it from that angle and see, I guess, then how does metformin activate MK? Does it activate sort of a subunit? Does it activate another molecule, like a relay molecule, something like that? Or does metformin actually work through this pathway? And if so, is it by inhibiting pyruvate carboxylase itself, or is it through interacting with biotin, which then can, interact with pyruvate carboxylase? There are other pathways proposed as well, other different enzymes in this pathway. Because although this is the main important part of gluconeogenesis at the very beginning, there's so many steps that we didn't even show you. So I guess to answer your question, you first have to have a better understanding of the mechanism of action. And also, we need to understand concentration, because concentrations matter, right? We tested concentrations, and we found that actually higher than normal concentrations work in this way, which is not necessarily indicative that this is wrong, because a lot of studies which suggest the MK model, for example, which is the leading proposed theory, they use suprapharmacokinetic concentrations as well. So it's kind of interesting, like when, and maybe it's even a combination of all the three mechanisms or more. So kind of rambling, but to be brief, we need to understand better the way that it works in the biology, and then we can start to attack against the chemistry and synthesis of the drug. Maybe we can make, like add more functional groups and other such things, like aiding in that transamination reaction that we showed with biotin. So there's a lot of further research that needs to be done.
Maybe you mentioned that I did not hear that part. What is your sample size? Part 1, part 2? Is the sample size the same for all the 6 groups? So you have like an because you found the different control of the 5,000 micromoles, right? And I think one of the reasons that you did is because you said that the sample size is small. So that kind of trigger need to know whether the sample size is the same and if it's particular. So
yeah, the sample size was the same. It was just the concentrations of metformin were different. It was the same between each concentration and then each control. So yeah, I guess they were the same. And then yeah. Okay.
So this drug is used quite often for different illnesses. How do they not know? How is this not studied as an example?
So the question was how we don't know, how do we not understand the other diseases that this drug can suppress? Is that correct? So basically, there are many different theories on how it can do this. For example, when we did diabetes, we found results in that pyruvate carboxylase was being inhibited. However, studies have shown that other enzymes are being inhibited, and it's kind of the same for cancer. There's a theory that for cancer that metformin inhibits a gene or like a protein that controls the amount of cell growth and reproduction. So if you inhibit that, you lead to apoptosis, which is cell death. So another theory is that in your body, when insulin is actually using receptors a lot, trying to get that glucose into the cell, that is being overused, and sometimes that can lead to tumors, which is one theory. And they're saying that metformin inhibits this from happening, leading to suppressing, increasing the survival rate for cancer patients. Are there other studies on the metformin drug?
Oh yeah, lots of studies on metformin, and for all sorts of different uses.
So why is the I'm unclear why?
I think, and so the question is, if there's so many studies for like such a long time on how that could work and through which pathway, even just regarding type 2 diabetes alone, why don't we know definitively how that could work? And I think a big part of this has to do with concentration, because a lot of studies use very variable concentrations and variable conditions. You know, like we ran gluconeogenesis in a diagram, that might not necessarily be the same as looking at cells, looking at an animal model. And also, I mean, maybe from this range of concentration, it looks like metformin inhibits P3. For maybe from this other range of concentration, it looks like metformin inhibits MK. And so it's difficult to say discard one theory and accept another if it's the same range of concentration as well and find a different thing. And so I think that definitely we need a standardized method of assessing metformin action. And it's very difficult because a lot of studies are looking for a lot of different things. You know, we need a carbon-13 NMR for our theory, but another person running an experiment looking at how metformin interacts with another enzymes don't want to do that. You know, and so I think that it's important to standardize our methods as well as have standard understandings of concentration. Because also in the body, like what you ingest, the dosage is not the same as the concentration that's going to end up in your body. The concentration in your hepatic portal vein is going to be very different than the actual concentration in the liver cells themselves. When hepatocytes, which is going to be different than the concentration in the kidney, you know, and it's so like we need to understand better the pharmacokinetics of the drug, how it moves through your body, and then relate that to, okay, how are we going to try our best as possible to stimulate those conditions in our reactions, if that makes sense.
Well, that's all the questions we can take.
Thank you.